You ever get that weird feeling that no matter how hard you work, something's holding you back? Like you're stuck in this loop. Wake up, work, pay bills, repeat, and deep down, you know, you were never meant to escape. What's up, book lovers? Welcome to BookZeal. Today we're breaking open one of the most eye-opening books ever written, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This isn't just about money. It's about the invisible game behind money, the rules the rich quietly follow while everyone else plays blindfolded. You'll see how two fathers, with two totally different mindsets, built two opposite futures. You'll learn why chasing paychecks keeps you stuck, and how real freedom starts when you stop trading time for cash. You'll uncover how taxes, business, and assets are used like secret weapons, not to work harder, but smarter. And here's a heads up. There's one turning point in this video that completely flips the way you think about wealth. If you skip it, you'll miss the moment everything clicks. Also, tell me down below, where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Because once you get this, you'll realize the system was never built to set you free, but you can still break out of it. So let's get started. Chapter 1. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Money is a language, and most people spend their entire lives trying to survive in a world they never learned how to read. That was Robert's childhood. Two fathers, two voices, two completely different worlds. One believed in security, the other believed in freedom, and the wild part is, both men thought they were right. Robert grew up watching the tension between these two belief systems. His real dad, the man he called his poor dad, was educated, respected, with a stable job and a clean life plan. Go to school, get good grades, get a safe job, work hard, save money, retire someday. That was his formula, and on the surface it sounded responsible, the way a good adult is supposed to think. But behind that perfect formula, there was a quiet fear that never left him. The fear of losing a job, the fear of bills, the fear of not having enough. Security had become his cage. Then there was Rich Dad, not highly educated, not dressed in fancy degrees, but he understood money like a game he had already mastered. His rules sounded strange at first. The poor work for money, he said. The rich make money work for them. Robert was confused. How can money work? It's not a person. It doesn't move. It doesn't think. But Rich Dad's life was proof that his rules worked. Businesses, investments, assets, cash flow. His money produced more money. He didn't work harder. He worked smarter. And he looked free in a way Robert had never seen before. These two fathers became two voices in Robert's head. One said, go to school and get a job. The other said, build assets and buy freedom. One said, play it safe. The other said, bet on your mind. One said, money is evil. The other said, money is a tool. Over time, Robert realized something uncomfortable. Poverty wasn't just about not having money. It was about how you think. And wealth wasn't about being born lucky. It was about learning the rules. Most people lose this game before they ever start. Not because they are lazy, but because they are trained to be employees, not owners. They chase paychecks, not opportunities. They cling to comfort, not growth. They repeat what they are told, without questioning who actually benefits from that system. A job gives you a paycheck, sure, but it also gives you limits. One stream of income, one boss, one ladder, one life. Rich Dad refused to live inside that box. Poor Dad never questioned the box at all. That was the moment something shifted in Robert's mind. He started to notice what most people never see. The world is divided not by class, race, or talent, but by mindset. The educated poor and middle class learn to earn. The rich learn to own. One side works for money. The other owns the system money comes from. And that single difference changes everything. Robert made his choice, and this is where his real journey began. Chapter 2. The Rich Don't Work for Money. The first punch to the gut came early. Robert expected that if he worked harder, he would earn more. That's the deal we are all sold as kids, right? Show up, be loyal, grind, get paid. But Rich Dad shut that belief down fast. He said something that sounded cold at first, almost rude. Working for money traps you. Money should work for you. Robert didn't get it at all. He was like most people, impatient, confused, and honestly a little annoyed. Because when you're young, all you want is a paycheck to prove your time mattered. Rich Dad refused. No paycheck, no allowance, no hourly wage. Instead, he let Robert feel exactly what most adults feel their entire lives. Financial pressure, that restless stomach, that low-key anxiety, that hunger to earn so you don't feel useless. Most people run from that discomfort. They start chasing paychecks just to silence it. But Rich Dad wanted Robert to sit in that feeling, face it, and question it. Because the moment you fear being broke, you become easy to control. Employers love that. The system loves that. Your fear becomes their leverage. Poor Dad believed the opposite. He told Robert to get a good job with benefits, something steady, something respectable. But Rich Dad laughed at that mindset. He said the moment you rely on a paycheck, you surrender control. You stop thinking. You stop questioning. You obey. You trade your life for scraps. The world is full of talented people who stay broke because they think like employees, not owners. They hate Mondays, pray for Fridays, and live for their 2-week vacation like it's freedom. That's not a life. That's a contract. Rich Dad taught Robert a different game. If you want freedom, don't chase money. Chase skills. Chase knowledge. Chase leverage. When you work only for money, you get tired. But when you work for growth, your value multiplies. Most people never understand this because the school system trains us to fear mistakes, fear failure, fear risk. So we play it safe, even when safe is killing us. The rich are not fearless. They just learned how to use fear instead of letting fear use them. One afternoon, Robert snapped. He was frustrated, tired of not getting paid, tired of feeling like the lesson wasn't going anywhere. Then Rich Dad explained the real trap. When you feel underpaid, you have 2 choices. 1, complain, demand more, and stay dependent forever. 2, learn, evolve, and build something that no one can take away. Paychecks stop, skills don't. And the richest people on the planet are not the ones who work the hardest. They're the ones who understand value, timing, and opportunity. That day, Robert realized something that stings once it hits your soul. Most people don't hate their jobs. They hate being owned. They hate that someone else gets to decide their worth, their time, and their future. The rich escaped that system by thinking differently from day one. Robert knew he had to do the same. Chapter 3. Why Teach Financial Literacy? The first real wake-up call hit Robert the day Rich Dad asked a simple question. If you earn $1 million, but lose it all a few years later, are you really rich? That question stung, because the honest answer is no. Without financial literacy, money doesn't stay. It escapes. It slips through your fingers no matter how hard you work or how big your paycheck is. Lottery winners go broke. Celebrities go bankrupt. High-income professionals drown in debt. Not because they're dumb, not because they're lazy, but because nobody ever taught them how money actually works. Robert grew up thinking that being smart meant getting good grades. But Rich Dad made him see the real game. Schools teach you how to earn money, not how to keep it. They teach you how to read books, not balance sheets. They teach you how to pass tests, not how to build assets. So people walk into adult life with big dreams and zero financial defense. They learn fast how to buy stuff, but they never learn how to buy freedom. Rich Dad broke it down in a way that hit deep. The rich buy assets, the poor buy stuff. And the middle class? They buy liabilities that they swear are assets. A fancy house, a shiny car, designer things for approval they don't even need. They work harder to buy more and then work even harder to pay for what they bought. It looks successful on social media, but behind the scenes, stress is eating them alive. One paycheck stops and everything collapses. To Robert, Rich Dad explained the difference with a simple rule. Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out. That's it. But most people never see this because they're blinded by feelings. They fall in love with things that drain them. They chase status instead of stability. And then they wonder why they're stuck in the same loop year after year. Financial literacy isn't about math. It's about mindset. It's learning to control your emotions around money instead of letting money control your emotions. Robert watched how most adults live. They don't lose because they're weak. They lose because they don't know the rules. They think making more money will fix everything. But more income without financial intelligence just means bigger mistakes, bigger debt, bigger regret. Rich Dad drilled this truth into Robert's head early. If you want long-term wealth, learn the language of money, study assets, understand cash flow, master the game before you bet your life on it. One afternoon, Rich Dad told Robert something he never forgot. Your mind is your greatest asset, not your job, not your house, not your bank account. If your mind is trained, you can lose everything and rebuild. If your mind is untrained, you can gain everything and still lose it all. That line hit different. It made Robert realize wealth starts in the head long before it shows up in the wallet. And that's when a shift happened. Robert stopped asking, "How can I earn more?" and started asking, "How can I grow smarter?" Because the rich don't stay rich by accident. They stay rich by design. Chapter 4. Mind Your Own Business. The real turning point in Robert's journey came when Rich Dad told him something that sounded almost disrespectful at first. He said, "Stop minding everyone else's business and start minding your own." Robert was confused. He wasn't meddling in gossip or digging into people's private lives. So what did that even mean? Rich Dad explained it in a way that hit like a brick. When most adults say they have a career, what they really have is a job that builds someone else's dream. They spend their best energy, their best years, and their best ideas growing another person's business, while their own financial life stays empty and underdeveloped. Poor Dad didn't see it that way. He believed loyalty to a job was noble. The company gives you security, so you give them everything. But Rich Dad shook his head at that logic. A job can feed you. It will never free you. Your boss can pay you. He will never make you rich. And the biggest trap is that people confuse their profession with their business. A banker thinks banking is his business. A lawyer thinks law is his business. A doctor thinks medicine is his business. But the second their paycheck stops, their so-called business dies on the spot. That's not ownership. That's dependency. Rich Dad drilled a simple truth into Robert's mind. Your job is your occupation. Your business is your assets. Your job gives you cash. Your assets give you freedom. And freedom is the only reason money matters in the first place. The middle class never understands this. They get a raise, then instantly raise their lifestyle. A nicer apartment, a pricier car, a bigger mortgage. They call it progress. But all they really did was upgrade their cage. More toys, more payments, more pressure. They hustle harder, thinking they're building a life. But the truth is, the life is quietly owning them. Rich Dad told Robert to flip the script. Pay yourself first, not with vacations, not with shoes or gadgets. Pay yourself in assets. Stocks, real estate, royalties, ownership, cash flow. Things that grow while you sleep. Things that don't disappear when your boss snaps his fingers. At first it made Robert uncomfortable because we're trained to believe bills come first. And sure, bills matter. But if you build a life where bills always come first, you'll work forever and never escape. One afternoon, Rich Dad asked Robert a question that stuck forever. If you quit your job today, how many months could you survive without panic? Most people can't even last a couple of weeks. That's not security. That's danger. Real security comes from assets, not paychecks. And the craziest part is, building assets doesn't require genius, perfect timing, or a rich family. It only requires intention. A decision to stop living on autopilot and start building something that belongs to you. That moment, Robert understood the core of Rich Dad's philosophy. Don't spend your life polishing someone else's ladder. Build your own, even if it starts small. even if nobody claps. Because over time, assets compound, freedom compounds, confidence compounds. And the day your assets pay for your life, not your job, you finally own your time. Chapter 5. The History of Taxes and the Power of Corporations. Robert never expected a casual lesson on money to turn into a history class, but Rich Dad wasn't teaching him to pass a test. He was teaching him how the real world works, and to do that, he had to expose a hard truth. Taxes were never designed to protect the poor. Taxes were designed to control the poor. And the crazy part is, the poor and middle class actually voted for the very system that traps them. Why? Because they were sold a sweet lie. Tax the rich. Make them pay their fair share. It sounded fair. It sounded noble. But the rich didn't get mad. They got smarter. Rich Dad told Robert that when income taxes first appeared, the wealthy were the target. But the rich quickly found a loophole the average person didn't even know existed. Corporations. Not a building, not a skyscraper, not a giant logo. A corporation is simply a legal shield, a financial avatar, a money suit of armor that protects the rich, while the poor and middle class walk around financially naked, paying for everything out of their own pockets. Employees get taxed before they touch their money. Corporations spend first and get taxed on what's left. That one difference changes everything. Poor Dad never understood that. He believed corporations were evil, greedy machines. Rich Dad laughed at that mindset. Corporations are just tools. A hammer can build a home or break a window. It depends on who's holding it. The rich use corporations to protect their money, while the poor hand their money away without a fight. And here's the part that blew Robert's mind. An employee works for money that gets taxed before they spend a dime. A corporation earns money, spends on expenses, investments, travel, protection, growth, and only gets taxed on the leftovers. Same dollar. Different rules, different results. Rich Dad wanted Robert to understand something that most adults never learn. The system isn't fair, but it is learnable. The government rewards behaviors that help society, so the rich play by those rules. They build businesses, provide jobs, create housing, support the economy, and in return, they legally protect and multiply their wealth. Meanwhile, the average person complains about taxes while doing nothing to change their position in the game. Robert started seeing it everywhere. People grind through life, paycheck to paycheck, thinking the system is rigged against them. And honestly, it is, if you don't know the rules. But the moment you learn the rules, the game flips. The same tax code that crushes the ignorant becomes a cheat code for the informed. This is why financial literacy matters. Not to brag, not to flex, but to protect your future. Because money you keep is more powerful than money you earn. It hit Robert in a way that stuck for life. The rich don't stay rich just because they make money. They stay rich because they know how to protect it. Wealth is not only about income, it's about defense. And the moment you learn how to protect your money the way the rich do, you stop playing the game as a victim. You start playing as a creator, someone who builds, owns, and controls. That lesson became fuel for Robert. The system wasn't the enemy anymore. Ignorance was, and he wasn't about to stay ignorant. Chapter 6. The rich invent money. The moment Robert understood the power of corporations, Rich Dad pushed him into the next level of the game. He said money is never the problem. Lack of awareness is the problem. Most people believe money is scarce, like there's only one pie and everyone is fighting for a slice. But the rich don't wait around hoping for a slice. They bake their own pies, and if needed, they build the entire bakery. That's what Rich Dad meant when he said the rich invent money. They don't sit around hoping for opportunity. They create it. Poor Dad always taught Robert to avoid risk. Save your money. Be responsible. Don't lose anything. But Rich Dad exposed the hidden cost of that mindset. When you fear losing, you lose the chance to win. Playing not to lose is the fastest way to stay stuck. The world is full of people who are smarter, sharper, and more capable than millionaires, but their fear cages them. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect paycheck, the perfect economy, the perfect guarantee. Meanwhile, the rich take imperfect action and find a way to win with what they have. Rich Dad showed Robert real examples. During a recession, the average person panics, cuts spending, and prays the storm passes. The rich, they go hunting. Markets crash, assets go on sale, and while everyone else is drowning in fear, the rich scoop up opportunities for pennies. That's inventing money, seeing value before the crowd sees it, acting before the crowd reacts. The rich buy when everybody's scared and sell when everybody's greedy, not because they're lucky, because they're prepared. To invent money, Rich Dad said, you need 3 things: knowledge, courage, and creativity. Knowledge gives you the vision to recognize an opportunity. Courage gives you the heart to move on it. Creativity gives you the flexibility to structure deals that others can't even imagine. You don't need a fat bank account to start. You need a trained mind, because when your mind is sharp, the world becomes a menu of possibilities instead of a wall of limitations. Robert noticed something else too. The poor and middle class rush to earn more, but the rich build systems. They look for opportunities that multiply. One idea, one investment, one asset, one cash flow, and suddenly they create money without trading more hours. Poor Dad thought working harder made you richer. Rich Dad believed smarter thinking made you unstoppable. And over time, Robert saw who was right. The people who struggle financially are not stupid. They're just playing the wrong game. They cling to old rules that no longer work. Go to school, get a job, save money, buy a house, retire. That formula died years ago, but most of the world is still following it out of habit. The rich found new rules. Money is a tool, a servant, a seed. You plant it, grow it, and multiply it. When you finally understand that, you stop chasing money and start creating it. Robert realized this chapter wasn't about greed. It was about control. When you can invent money, you're not scared anymore. You're not waiting anymore. You're not begging anymore. You move from survival mode to creation mode, and that changes everything. Chapter 7. Work to learn, don't work for money. The shift happened the day Rich Dad looked Robert in the eyes and said, "Stop chasing paychecks and start collecting skills." At first, the line sounded almost offensive, because for most people, a paycheck is survival. It's the rent, it's the fridge, it's everything. But Rich Dad wasn't being heartless. He was exposing the trap millions of people fall into without even realizing it. When you work for money, your growth stops the second the paycheck hits your hand. But when you work to learn, your growth compounds for life. Poor Dad never saw it that way. He believed in specializing. Pick a career, climb the ladder, stay in your lane, don't rock the boat. But Rich Dad laughed at that mindset. He said the more lanes you learn, the faster you own the entire road. The rich collect skills the way others collect pay stubs. Sales, leadership, communication, investing, marketing, negotiation, money management, skills that make you valuable anywhere, skills that make you unstoppable even if the world flips upside down. Rich Dad gave Robert real responsibility, not glamorous stuff, not applause-worthy stuff. He had Robert learning sales 1 month, managing people another month, and studying markets the next. It was uncomfortable. It was messy. It bruised his ego, but he started realizing something powerful. Every new skill made him less scared, less dependent, less controllable. Meanwhile, his friends chased promotions, terrified of making mistakes, terrified of looking bad, terrified of losing the little they had. Robert saw how fear freezes people into a lifetime of small decisions. Most people avoid learning because it doesn't pay instantly. They want the quick hit, the fast reward, the Friday paycheck. But that mindset comes with chains. When you only do what pays you today, you rob your future self of freedom tomorrow. The rich do the opposite. They delay gratification. They hunt for skills that will pay them forever, not just this month. That's why they adapt fast. When the economy changes, they evolve. When industries shift, they shift. While everyone else prays the world goes back to normal, the rich reinvent themselves and move forward. Rich Dad explained the biggest difference between the rich and everyone else. The poor want security. The middle class wants comfort. The rich want knowledge, because knowledge creates certainty. Certainty creates confidence, and confidence creates cash flow. Once Robert understood that, he stopped asking, "How much does this pay?" and started asking, "What does this teach me?" That question alone changed the direction of his entire life. There was a moment that burned into Robert's memory. Rich Dad told him, "You can quit a job, but never quit learning. A job is temporary. Skills are assets. If a job disappears, your skills will build a new one, or a new business, or a new income stream. But if you depend on a job without skills, you're one bad day away from panic." That lesson sank in deep. Robert realized the goal was never to become an employee who earns more. The goal was to become a person who can create more. Because when you work to learn, you eventually earn without working. Chapter 8. Overcoming Obstacles. Fear doesn't show up wearing a warning label. It slides into your thoughts quietly, pretending to protect you, whispering things that sound reasonable. What if you fail? What if you lose everything? What if people laugh? That voice becomes the chain around your potential, and most people never challenge it. They think fear is a stop sign, when in reality it's just a yellow light asking if you're serious. Rich Dad always said the greatest obstacle to wealth isn't the economy, the government, or a boss. It's the fear we surrender to inside our own head. School trains people to avoid mistakes, then society punishes failure like it's a crime. So we grow up terrified of looking dumb, terrified of trying something new, terrified of being judged. Fear turns capable adults into spectators. Broke not because they lack talent, but because they lack the courage to risk being uncomfortable. Poor Dad believed safety was the goal. Get a secure job, don't rock the boat, don't take risks, don't fail. But safety can become a cage. A paycheck can become a leash. And fear convinces you it's responsible to stay trapped. Rich Dad never pretended he didn't feel fear. He just refused to bow to it. He taught that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting even while you feel it. The difference between the rich and everyone else is not that they're braver, it's that they're willing to get punched by reality, learn, and keep moving. The poor avoid pain. The rich confront it. The poor run from failure. The rich partner with it. Failure is feedback. Failure is data. Failure is part of the tuition you pay to win. Then comes doubt, fear's little brother. Doubt tells you you're not smart enough, not ready, not connected. Doubt convinces you to wait for the right time, as if life ever hands out perfect conditions. That hesitation becomes a habit. You pause once, then twice, then one day you wake up and realize fear has been driving your life for years. You didn't reject wealth. You just never gave yourself permission to pursue it. And when fear and doubt don't work, the mind creates excuses. I don't have money. I don't have time. I don't know where to start. Excuses feel logical, but they're just fear wearing a mask. Rich Dad always said the problem isn't a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness. The moment you say, "I can't," your brain shuts down. The moment you ask, "How can I?" your brain wakes up. The question you ask yourself decides the life you build. The world isn't kind to the timid. Fear will rob you of every dream you don't fight for. The people who make it aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who got tired of letting fear make their decisions. Real wealth starts with emotional control. When you stop letting fear run your story, you stop living on the sidelines. You become the one who takes the shot, not the one who watches. Chapter 9. Getting Started. Most people never start. Not because they're weak, not because they're lazy, but because they're overwhelmed by the size of the journey. They stare at the mountain and forget that every climb begins with a first step. Rich Dad used to say, clarity isn't something you wait for, it's something you create. Action shapes clarity. Motion sharpens direction. You don't think your way into a new life, you move your way into it. And the moment you take that first step, fear starts shrinking. Poor Dad believed you should prepare, 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 and maybe one day, if everything is perfect, take a shot. But perfect conditions are a myth. If you wait for the right timing, you'll wait forever. Rich Dad believed in learning while moving, adjusting while building, and improving while failing. Direction matters more than speed, but momentum matters more than perfection. A car parked in a driveway can't turn. Once it's rolling, you can steer anywhere. The real enemy isn't lack of money. It's lack of intention. Most people say they want wealth, but their daily choices don't match that desire. They want freedom, but their habits serve comfort. They want change, but they cling to routine. Rich Dad drilled one thing into Robert's mind: get obsessed with your why. If your why is small, your effort will be small. If your why is huge, nothing can stop you. A strong why is fuel. The bigger it is, the further you go. Then comes focus. We live in a world where distractions hunt us. Notifications, noise, opinions, and endless scrolling. You can lose a decade without even noticing. Wealth doesn't grow in a scattered mind. Focus is a superpower now. The rich lock in. They choose a direction and commit long enough to see results. The poor chase every shiny thing and wonder why nothing sticks. If everything is urgent, nothing is important. Focus forces you to choose what matters and let go of what doesn't. Rich Dad believed you don't need the whole staircase to climb. You just need the next 3 steps. Step 1, educate yourself. Not with random YouTube noise, but with real financial knowledge. Step 2, take a small action. Buy an asset, start a side hustle, learn a skill that pays. Step 3, repeat the process long enough to see momentum. Wealth is boring in the beginning. Results are slow. Progress is invisible. But one day the curve bends and everything accelerates. Fear will tag along. Doubt will whisper. People will question your choices. Some will mock you. Some will disappear. Some will tell you you've changed. And yeah, you have, because staying stuck to make others comfortable is not loyalty. It's self-betrayal. The road to wealth is not crowded. Not because it's hard, but because it demands responsibility. You don't get to blame luck, blame parents, blame society, blame the economy. You either build or you don't. Starting isn't about being ready. It's about taking control. Once you start, you separate yourself from 99% of the world. The talkers, the doubters, the excuse makers, the maybes, the someday people. Starting makes you dangerous. Starting makes you alive. Starting is the moment you stop wishing and begin becoming. Chapter 10. Still want more? Here are some to-dos. There comes a moment when a person realizes the world isn't going to suddenly hand them a new life. Nobody is coming to knock on your door and say, "Hey, I noticed your potential. Here's a better future." Real growth starts the day you stop waiting for a rescue and start becoming your own rescue. Rich Dad always believed that wealth is a skill, not a miracle. And skills are built, not wished into existence. If you want a new outcome, you build new patterns. If you want financial freedom, you build a financial identity. The biggest shift happens when you stop calling money the goal and start calling freedom the goal. Because the rich don't chase money, they build systems. They build assets. They build pipelines that pay them whether they wake up early or sleep in, whether they work or take a day off. Poor Dad worked for income. Rich Dad built income. One mindset creates a ceiling. The other creates a runway. But the journey doesn't ask for perfection. It only asks for commitment. Not loud commitment. Not social media commitment. Quiet, private, unshakable commitment. The kind where you decide, I'm done being average. I'm done being scared. I'm done living on default. That switch, once it flips, changes everything. You start noticing opportunities you used to overlook. You start questioning old habits. You start moving different, thinking different, choosing different. And yeah, the world won't clap for you at the beginning. You'll outgrow people. You'll walk away from old patterns. You'll stop wasting time. Some friends won't get it. Some family won't understand. That's okay. You're not building their future. You're building yours. Wealth isn't a group project. It's a solo mission that eventually blesses everyone connected to you. Start small. Stay consistent. Study money, build assets, protect your attention, choose your circle wisely, and keep your hunger alive. Every dollar you invest in your mind pays more than any stock, any property, any business. Knowledge multiplies. Awareness multiplies. Discipline multiplies. The more you grow, the more your results grow. That's why wealthy people never stop learning. Not because they're nerds, because they're builders. And builders need better tools every year. So now the question becomes simple. Not what if it doesn't work, but who do I become if I refuse to quit? If you stay committed, this path will test you, stretch you, and challenge you. But it will also transform you. Financial freedom is not just about money. It's about becoming the kind of person who refuses to live life on a leash. If this summary spoke to your soul and you feel that fire to build a new future, then stick with me. Drop a comment and tell me what hit you the hardest. Like the video so this message reaches more people, and subscribe so we keep growing together. Your future is calling. Let's answer it.